Imagine standing on a prehistoric coastline over 200 million years ago. The waves crash against jagged rocks, and ferns the size of houses sway in the wind. Suddenly, a vast shadow passes overhead. It's not a bird. It's not a bat. It's something far older and stranger, a pterosaur, with wingspans ranging from just a few feet to over 30 feet. These ancient reptiles were the first vertebrates to take to the skies. They soared above ancient forests, deserts, and oceans, mastering flight millions of years before birds even existed. Pterosaurs weren't dinosaurs, though they lived alongside them. They belonged to a unique group of flying reptiles that emerged during the late Triassic period. Unlike anything alive today, pterosaurs developed a completely different blueprint for Flight 1 based on skin membranes, extended fingers, and hollow bones. Their reign in the sky would last an astonishing 160 million years, surviving mass extinctions and rival predators. And yet, despite their dominance, they vanished completely. Not a single pterosaur survived the event that ended the age of dinosaurs. What happened? Why did creatures so perfectly adapted to the sky disappear so suddenly? To understand their fate, we must first explore their origins, their evolution, and the wonders of their airborne world. Pterosaurs appeared around 228 million years ago. During the late Triassic period, Earth was a hot, hostile world, teeming with strange reptiles and early dinosaurs. In this chaotic environment, a new kind of creature took to the air. The earliest pterosaurs were small, lightweight, and perfectly built for flight. Their wings weren't made of feathers, like birds, but of stretched skin attached to an elongated fourth finger, a design unlike any modern flyer. One of the earliest known species, Pterodactyls, had a wingspan of less than 2 feet and a long tail for stability. It likely hunted insects near the water's edge, gliding between trees and cliffs. These early flyers had sharp teeth, strong eyesight, and light but durable bones. Their unique anatomy allowed them to flap their wings as well as glide, giving them a level of control unmatched by other animals of the time. Powered flight was a revolutionary adaptation. It gave pterosaurs access to food sources unreachable by land animals. They could escape predators by taking to the air and colonize isolated environments like sea cliffs and volcanic islands. Flight was their superpower, and they used it to carve out a niche no other creature could touch for now. Over millions of years, pterosaurs diversified into an incredible range of shapes and sizes. Some remained small and agile, darting through forests like giant dragonflies. Others became truly massive, pushing the limits of biology and gravity itself. By the Cretaceous period, some pterosaurs had evolved into the largest flying animals in Earth's history. Take Quetzalcoatlus, for example. With a wingspan of over 35 feet larger than a modern hang glider, it stood as tall as a giraffe when grounded. Despite its size, it could launch itself into the air using powerful limbs and glide for miles. Scientists believe it may have soared across ancient inland seas, searching for prey or carrion like a giant stork. Other species developed bizarre features, long crests on their heads, toothless beaks, or jaws shaped like sieves. Some specialized in fishing, skimming the ocean surface with razor-sharp beaks. Others were insectivores, hunters, or even scavengers. Their diversity was unmatched in the skies. From deserts to coastlines, pterosaurs filled nearly every ecological role available to flying animals, and they did it long before birds became common. They weren't just survivors, they were innovators, adapting to every shift in climate and competition for more than 150 million years. Pterosaurs didn't just fly, they lived entire lives in the sky. Fossils suggest many species lived in large colonies, nesting on cliffs or sandbanks near the sea. Some remains even show groups of adults and young together, hinting at complex social behaviors. One extraordinary discovery revealed dozens of eggs buried together, suggesting that at least some pterosaurs laid clutches and protected their nests. Young pterosaurs may have been capable of flight soon after hatching. If true, that would have made them remarkably independent and mobile from the beginning. Their wings and muscles developed early, and they likely took to the air within days, an advantage in predator-rich environments. Feeding strategies varied widely. Some species hunted fish with long, slender jaws filled with needle-like teeth. Others had no teeth at all, using scoop-like beaks to gulp down prey. Some may have even used filter feeding techniques, much like today's flamingos or baleen whales. Their lifestyle was dynamic and adaptive. They migrated with the seasons, rode warm air currents across continents, and hunted over vast distances. With their keen eyesight and superb aerial maneuverability, they dominated the air like nothing before or since. Their mastery of flight wasn't just biological, it was ecological. Pterosaurs were engineering marvels. Every part of their body was shaped by flight. Their bones were hollow and filled with air sacs, making them incredibly light without sacrificing strength. These air sacs also helped with respiration, similar to the breathing systems of modern birds. The most striking feature was their wings. Unlike birds, which use feathers, pterosaurs had membranous wings supported by a single elongated finger. This wing membrane included muscle fibers, nerves, and even blood vessels, allowing for real-time control and adjustments during flight. The result was an incredibly flexible and responsive wing, capable of sharp turns, dives, and glides. Their heads were often enormous, with jaws making up the majority of their skull length. Some had crests, possibly used for display, stability, or thermal regulation. Their brains were large for reptiles, particularly the areas responsible for balance and vision, essential for a life spent in motion. Even their limbs were specialized. Pterosaurs likely launched into flight using a quadrupedal leap, pushing off with both their hind limbs and wings simultaneously. This gave them the power needed to lift off quickly, even for the largest species. Every feature served a single purpose: to conquer the air and stay there. For much of their history, pterosaurs had the skies to themselves. But around 50 million years ago, a new kind of flyer emerged: birds. Descended from small, feathered theropod dinosaurs, early birds like Archaeopteryx brought a different approach to flight. Feathers offered insulation, maneuverability, and a lighter wing structure. At first, birds were no threat to pterosaurs. They were small, rare, and limited in where they could live. But over time, birds adapted quickly. They spread into forests, developed perching feet, and learned to feed in new ways. They could nest in trees, a habitat pterosaurs couldn't access. They were fast breeders, too, with shorter generation times. Smaller pterosaurs began to disappear. Fossil evidence suggests that by the late Cretaceous, only the larger species remained. Whether this was due to direct competition with birds, environmental changes, or both is still debated. But the trend was clear: pterosaurs were shrinking in diversity. Still, the giants held on. They ruled the open skies while birds began to dominate wooded areas and inland niches. The skies were no longer theirs alone, but they remained majestic, silent rulers of the wind, until disaster struck. 66 million years ago, everything changed. A massive asteroid slammed into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The impact released more energy than 1 billion atomic bombs, sending shockwaves around the globe. Fires ignited, earthquakes rocked the continents, tsunamis swept across oceans, and dust filled the sky, blocking out the sun for months. For creatures that relied on flight, vision, and warmth, this was catastrophic. Pterosaurs, especially the large species, couldn't cope. Their prey vanished. The thermals they relied on to soar disappeared. nesting grounds were destroyed. The once rich coastal ecosystems they ruled turned to ash. Unlike birds, pterosaurs lacked the adaptations needed to survive in cold, dark conditions. Birds were smaller, could eat seeds, and hide in burrows or dense forests. Many could fly short distances or not at all, giving them an edge in a world where the skies were no longer friendly. Within a few years, maybe even months, every pterosaur on Earth was gone. A lineage that had ruled the air for 160 million years vanished without leaving a single descendant. No modern bird, bat, or dragon is a pterosaur's heir. Their story ends in stone. Not bloodline. It's tempting to ask why birds lived and pterosaurs died. The answer isn't simple. It comes down to biology, ecology, and luck. Birds, being smaller and more flexible, could find shelter and food even in the worst post-impact conditions. Many were seed eaters or scavengers. They bred quickly and often. Pterosaurs, on the other hand, were specialists. They needed space, warmth, and abundant prey. Their long lifespans and slower reproduction meant they couldn't recover quickly. Their massive wings were useless in a sky filled with soot and no thermals. Their size became their curse. It wasn't a matter of being weak. In fact, pterosaurs were some of the most successful animals to ever live. But evolution doesn't favor strength, it favors adaptability. The asteroid didn't kill pterosaurs directly. It broke the ecosystems they depended on. And in a broken world, specialists die first. Had the impact never happened, pterosaurs might still be flying today. Their reign wasn't cut short by competition or failure, but by cosmic chance. And that's one of the most haunting truths in Earth's history. For centuries, no one knew pterosaurs existed. Their bones, thin and fragile, rarely survived fossilization. But in the 18th and 19th centuries, fragments began to emerge from rock formations in Germany, Brazil, and England. At first, scientists were baffled. What were these creatures? Flying lizards, sea monsters, birds? It wasn't until the 1800s that they were recognized as something unique, a new branch of prehistoric life, pterosaurs. Since then, hundreds of species have been discovered. Their fossils tell stories of nesting habits, feeding behaviors, and migration patterns. Some are so well preserved, they show the soft tissue of wings or hair-like filaments on their bodies. Despite this, pterosaurs remain underappreciated in popular culture. They're often lumped in with dinosaurs or portrayed inaccurately. Few people know how diverse, adaptable, and dominant they truly were. Their fossils are rarer than those of land-dwelling dinosaurs, making each discovery a precious piece of a forgotten puzzle. Scientists continue to study and debate their lives. With every new fossil, we learn more about the incredible history of flight and how close we came to sharing the skies with giants. Today, the skies are ruled by birds, but long before them, pterosaurs owned the wind. Their story is one of triumph, evolution, and sudden extinction. They were the first to fly, the longest to rule the air, and among the last to fall when the world changed forever. Their bones lie buried on every continent. Each fossil is a whisper from a forgotten world, a silent testament to creatures that defied gravity before anything else dared to. No other flying animal has matched their reign, not even birds or bats. When we look up and see a hawk soaring or a jet slicing through clouds, we glimpse the legacy of those ancient pioneers, not in lineage, but in the idea that flight was possible, and nature made it real long before we imagined it. Pterosaurs are gone, but their shadows still stretch across our imaginations, reminding us of a time when the air belonged to something else, something bigger, something bolder, something that, for millions of years, ruled the sky without rivals. Their story may have ended, but their mystery lives on.